Straight out of the gate, if we watch this, you can already see, compared to the E75, that the E77 doesn't come off good. A lot of things are red. So this is why I'm confident in saying that the E77 definitely isn't its E75 in premium. But all of this, while being red, are slightly undercut by the fact that they're only tightly red, Only a little bit is worse. Most of them are only by an inch worse than what they should be. And with that, I welcome you to my E77 review. Now, the E77 kind of surprised me before, because I was like, yeah, what's the point of it and why should we have it? And then I was like, after playing it, you know what? The better DPM with the slightly worse alpha, and, well, not slightly, it's pretty decently worse alpha, and slightly, this is where the slightly is, worse gun handling, is not as bad as I expected, because the mobility, while the top speed is the same, the horsepower is quite definitely much better with 15 versus 10 HP per ton ratio, so it felt a lot quicker. So it allowed me to be more dynamic, to have a grasp in the game. The main problem is, I say the tank is fine. It's not a must-have, it's totally fine though. The main problem is though now, if you say, okay, I want to have a unique experience, a fairly unique experience, which doesn't come from autoloader or machine gun, etc., you have to buy loot boxes, currently. I do believe this tank will be sold in like half a year, 3/4 of a year, normally, for maybe 40 euros, I hope, which is still expensive. However, it is going to be sold, because it's not OP. Not something like a BC-176 or an EBR FL10 or Brusque. Oh wait, they sold that one for no apparent reason. Anyway, it will be sold. So if you absolutely want it and you don't have a lot of tanks already from the list of those vehicles and those loot boxes which are coming, then I'd say just wait. You're not missing out too much. It is a good tank, but it is not a tank where I have to say, oh my god, it's a must-have, especially if you love the E75. Now we got the introduction done. The gun. 530 alpha on the 75 versus 460 on the 77. With additionally less module damage, which is a little bit annoying, because it would have been amazing to have the same module damage with the lower alpha and the better DPM. Because yes, it has around 150 or 120 better DPM. And this is already where we have this as a conundrum, A lot of people, me included, I do not mind having lower alpha versus better DPM. The main problem is though, currently in the game, it is fairly annoying to use low alpha, high DPM. This is why tanks, for example, like the E75, tanks like the BZ75, tanks like the Leopard 1, especially the Leopard 1, are fan favorites. The BC is just really used often in onslaught and more competitive modes because it's fast and has a punchy gun. The main problem is, currently the meta shifted towards booming and zooming, or click a boom a corner, go around, shoot once, reload and wait. And here obviously having higher alpha is a little bit better. This, however, means, combined with the better mobility, the E77 has to move more actively on the battlefield and use its mobility to its advantage and play it like a heavium, It's not a T10. The T10 is a lot quicker, but it feels fairly similar to a T10 thanks to the better horsepower. I've also mentioned the accuracy. The accuracy is worse, 0.02 to be precise, but it is not that much worse. And the aim time, while being worse, it's 0.1 second, so it's not that much worse. The accuracy on move and hold traverse, there is where the devil is in the detail. It is decently worse, which is a little bit annoying. But the turret accuracy is only by one step worse, so from 0.12 to 0.11 difference, This means you have to be a little bit more careful with the E77. You have to hold your angle when you're coming from a corner, like in a side scrape, which you can do. But you shouldn't to rotate your hull either. You should just move forward and backwards. And you should use your turret a little bit. Then it is more or less fine. You more or less have the same gun handling as the E75. You can obviously also use a stabilizer if you really want to. I didn't choose to use it. I mostly used an HP, a turbo, and a rammer, with the turbo being boosted by the field modifications. Again, I thought let's stack into its opportunities to be a speedy boy. The top speed is the same. The reverse speed is better by 1 kph. Jesus, it has more HP in the sense of horsepower, but it has 5 HP per ton per ratio more. And that is really, 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 really fun. Again, this allows you to be quicker. You actually achieve those 40 kph top speed on a flat surface. This also allows you to ram people with the new ramming skill, which can be fun, especially when you are on a flat surface achieving those 40 kph. You're still heavy. You have 70 tons. That is nothing to laugh at. But the only tiny caveat here is the soft and medium terrain resistances are worse on the E77 compared to the E75, meaning it's also a little bit slower there. With the better horsepower, it is faster, but in theory, it is slower, especially in turning the tank, because the tank traverse is the same. Now, I think it is a good time to look at the armor, because this is where, how should we say, not a problem lies, but it is important to understand what you're getting into. Because the whole lower plate, this is your weak spot. Most tanks can penetrate it. It's 120 millimeters thick, 185 to 190 to 200 maximum, depending on the angle, as you can see. Effectiveness thickness, meaning that even some tier 7 tanks shouldn't even have a problem to penetrate the lower plate. The upper plate is a little bit thicker. It has a more acute angle, meaning you have to play with this angle. The turret face is 290, with even some nice angle and giving it decent armor, decent effective armor. The roof can be overmatched by 150 millimeter guns, except for this bobble. This one is thicker, only being achievable to be overmatched by my nemesis, the FVs. The cupola is a weak spot, the eyes are a weak spot, and it also has a little bit of a weak spot, which is slightly annoying when you come from a hull down. For example, let me just do it like this. It's down here. It's 40 millimeters thick, which is nice, but it still means anything above 140 millimeter gun can detract you with damage, and depending where they're hitting, they can also damage your engine or most likely the fuel tanks, which are situated around back here. Why do I know that? Happened to me in a game. Now, live comparison. Now, this is where it suddenly starts to shine, innit? If you use the 8 degrees of gun depression, which are decent to use, and you use the E75 gun, which again has the same pen as the E77 gun, you see what I'm seeing, right? That is pretty darn good. Look at this. It's a bounce. That means the front face of the turret is thick enough to not be penetrated even with a max roll-on pen. As soon as we start to go flat, though, you can see that we start to go into a little bit of difficulty. Obviously, the whole lower plate is still easy pen. The upper plate, let's say it's a 50-50 depending where you hit. Cupola is still very easy to pen. You can apply an angle, and you can see, yes, the turret is really, really, really strong, actually. The side armor is 80 millimeters, so meaning you either auto bounce it or you get penned, as you can see right here. So you have to keep that in mind. This is a little bit better with the E75, which has 120 millimeters of side armor. The main issue starts when we start using gold ammunition, because then the whole, as you can see, it's Swiss cheese. Why do I know that? I am Swiss, I love cheese. Okay, that was cringe. Still though, if you decide to use it in a normal hull down situation, you still can bounce it reliably. As you can see, the turret face is still very, very strong. But the main problem is, as soon as you try to, how should I say, side scrape, this becomes an issue because this can be penetrated easily with rounds, and on a straight surface, the turret face is 40%, 50-40% chance to penetrate. And you still obviously have the cupola. So this is the little bit annoying part of it. The main thing is more that if you start to compare it to like something like a T10, which has heat, then you can see that even this up here becomes a weak spot. The turret face becomes very easy to penetrate, and the lower plate is literally a 100% pen chance. And if you try to side scrape, while yes, this time the 80mm help, but again, how should I say? You try to side scrape, this is going to be a massive weak spot, and this is still a weak spot, while this isn't. It feels like the E77 is a thick better when it comes to side scraping with the turret face. The turret face is on the side, at least from my playing experience, felt a lot better. Again, keep in mind, the hull needs to be vanished, the hull needs to be hidden. If you do that, it's totally a decent heavy tank, which is fast. And with that, there's not much else to say about the tank. It is fine. Again, as mentioned before, yes, it's annoying, it's in loot boxes, but it's not a tank you really miss out on if you don't get it. But it is unique enough where I have to say, yes, it gets a Raptor stamp of approval. It's good, it's okay, it's fun to play. But it is behind loot boxes. And the other options in the loot boxes don't really add up to say, yes, buy them in the hopes of getting him, because, I don't know, they don't really, how should I say, I'm not convinced. I'm generally not convinced. I hope this review helped you to decide if you want to buy the loot boxes or not. My name is RagingRaptor, and I see you in another video. Goodbye!